Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our podcast. This is Sunday night podcast. It's our regular podcast. Tonight, I'm going to discuss some things with you. From time to time, it's real convenient to go back to our basics and review things because sometimes we get into old habits and we forget about some of the basic things in ghost hunting. Also, we have a bunch of new people and we've been teaching some of the advanced techniques and stuff. And I want to remind you of some of the easy things that you need to be remembering. Ghost hunting, of course, can be very thrilling and exciting adventure. We want to use caution and make respect to make a positive experience for everyone. Here are some of the best tips that I can give you for having a good investigation and having it work out for you and be everything you want it to be. The first thing that you should do is research the history of the location before you go, if you can. This is not always possible. Sometimes the records are particularly hard to find. Sometimes your researcher may not know where to start, but once you get a go for it, you'll find that you can learn a lot of things about different sites. Also, if you visit historic type sites, the history is well written. You can find documentation, you can find diaries, you can find all kinds of information on the place and what type of possible activity you might see. Visiting some of these historic places, which I promote myself, is very amazing. In one case, we did a restoration of a cemetery, and it so happened that one of the new members, his name was EMS Cougar, had a girlfriend. They had just gotten together, and she had just heard that we were going to be restoring this cemetery. She called me all excited. She had relatives buried in that cemetery, which was, kind of a small world. It's funny how some of these things work out in the paranormal world where it seems like it's so small and yet the world is so large. And what are the chances of something like a coincidence working like this, where she had family in the cemetery? We get there and we're setting up and doing our investigation. We clean up the cemetery first, and then we start trying to do the investigation. That night, we settled down. We were going to fix dinner around the fire. We camped in the cemetery that night, and she brought out a shoebox full of pictures of some of her relatives that all lived in that were all in that cemetery. It turned out she had 85 family members buried in that cemetery. What are the chances of that? So anyway, it gave all the team members a little bit of insight into what these people were like, who they were, what their lives were like, and what was going on in their lives. And I think it made it very personal for each of our investigators. We never had trouble filling our vans and our trucks and then finding people to go to help us clean and restore the cemetery after our first trip there. One of the early things you want to remember, too, is that you want to wear deodorant that is odorless. And you don't want to wear aftershave or any perfumes. We've all been around people who have over perfumed and over aftershaved and stuff, and the vapors coming off are horrendous, and sometimes it's almost unpleasant. But here's the reason why. There's a reason for this. The reason for it is our olfactory senses are sometimes the first things that give us an indication that a ghost or an entity is about to appear. Sometimes we will get a smell of their perfume that, whiffs by us, and we'll pick up on lilacs or something like that, or maybe even white diamond or whatever perfume that they chose to wear, or aftershave for that matter. In some cases, we pick up on somebody smoking a pipe or cigars or things like that. So these are reasons we want to try to keep stray odors out of the area. We want to make sure that the odors that we are picking up are actually odors that are being, emitted right there on the scene. This is another reason why we restrict smokers to a smoking area when smoking. It's not only for the odor, but also Some of the photographs we get are where we have clouds and mist starting to form and stuff. And some of them look remarkably like swirling cigarette smoke. If we were to allow smokers in our area where we're taking pictures, we'd have to throw all that evidence out because we couldn't determine for sure whether if it was cigarette smoke or ectomist or ectoplasm starting to form. So for that reason, we restrict smoking in some other areas. Not only that, but for some of the people that we are doing investigations for, don't want us smoking in their house. They don't have ashtrays providing stuff. So it's a good idea to be, in our case, respectful and not allow smoking in the investigation area. Another thing that is a good practice for us to always do is to go as a team. You don't ever really want to go alone. It's a bad practice to go alone. I've gone alone. I know people that have gone alone. And I also know of people and to cases where it was a good thing we were a group, and I even know of some cases where even as a group, we felt like it was too risky to get out of the car and go do an investigation or go visit a cemetery or a site. And we, just from the vibes from the area, we reluctantly didn't do that investigation that night. We did it another time and maybe did another place that night. So it's a good idea to assemble a team and be part of a team. It's more fun when you're a group. You can have more fun together. You're riding in the cars, going out there, and the camaraderie you develop working with other people. You also find out that some members are good at some things or maybe better at some things than you are. And you want them to do that part of the investigation, so you're doing your best to work. So you want to use the strengths of the team. If you're new to investigating, how do you find a team to join? Well, first off, I would say some of the social media, most of the teams have social media sites. You can see what their videos are like and what they're posting. And you want to look for a team that is in harmony with what your beliefs are. You want to be able to, if you want to use instruments and do scientific type research, find a group that does that type of research. If you want to be on one that is just wanting to have excitement and not really serious about doing an investigation, you're there for the fun, the excitement, then find a team that uses flashy lights, that doesn't record any data, that doesn't try to be scientific in any way. Because, you're going to get burdened down with doing data requirements and trying to document things in a team that is scientific, and that's not what you are. So look for a team that falls into the scope of what you are seeking. You also want to find one that maybe is innovative if you're looking for a scientific team in the methods that they use. My team right now, for instance, we're looking at all kinds of things. We're looking at how frequencies, or you can see some of our recent YouTube videos of what the frequencies are doing and what's being affected, and the new field of bioacoustics. How does that come into play? There is also the parapsychology is getting to be a real big thing and a real science. And actually, it's partly, mostly about paranormal types of investigations. So you might want to join through a junior college or a college and through the parapsychology department. I'm thinking about seeking out a parapsychology department to join myself, just for resources, if nothing else, and to help share information that I have. Also, you might look on things like Meetup and different sites like that, where you can find people that have a common interest that you have, and you can join that way. And you can go to a few meetings or attend some of their investigations or something and see if that's really what you want to do. When you're getting an investigation lined up, you always want to be respectful. You want to be courteous. You want to be sincere. You want to be honest. You don't want to fake things. I mean, anybody could throw a rock and make a noise and hoax one of the other members into thinking something's happening that's not. That's not fair to the other members. It's not fair to yourself. You may think it's funny at the time, but it's not funny. There are members of some teams that fake evidence when they're out there. And you'll have to learn if there are any members in your team that do that or not. And if they do, you're going to have to get rid of them, because you want to be with somebody that's faking it. Some people say, fake it till you make it, Well, you can do that all day long, but you know what? We're in the business here in our group to try to scientifically investigate these things in a serious manner and really make our investigations mean something, and to try to help people. We also have set up all these channels to help educate other people like yourselves who want to learn about paranormal investigating and how to do it correctly. And that, we're here, we'll help you. You've got our email address, you've got our Facebook location. You know where we are on YouTube. Contact us. We'll be happy to take you in under our wing and help you out. You want to be sure and obtain permission for any property. You never want to enter somebody's property without permission. Another tip, too, is it's a good idea to be wearing a team shirt or an ID badge or something like that, so that if you are stopped, and we've been stopped a number of times by the police and other things in different locations, wanting to know if we had permission and who we were and why we were there. So, but we've never had any problems with anybody because we've always explained what our mission was, what we were doing, and why we were there, and we were in proper attire. And that's one of the things that you want to be properly dressed for the weather and to look professional. If you go in flip-flops and shorts, like some of the teams do that you see on TV, I've seen teams on TV go in flip-flops and shorts. Does that look professional? I mean, some of them have very good reputations, so that might, their reputation might overshadow that impression of not being professional, to a client. I'm concerned about the clients. I mean, their impression of how you look when you get on the scene is an idea that they develop as to how good the whole team is. It reflects on the whole team. So we ought to be wearing, team shirts. We ought to be wearing ID of some kind, and we ought to be dressed professionally so that we look serious about what we're doing and that we're able to carry out our mission and that we all know what we're doing. It's a good idea to utilize the equipment a little bit. Some of us haven't been on an investigation in a while. It might be that we want to refresh ourselves with how the equipment works. I mean, nothing is worse than to get out there and not be able to make your equipment work, or it takes a long time to figure it out. You don't look like you know what you're doing. The team doesn't know. It doesn't look like they know what they're doing. And so, again, you've created an impression of not being professional or even legitimate for that matter. You want to use the proper equipment and recorders when you come. There are different types of equipment. Some of them are recorders, voice audio recorders. Some of the audio recorders require that they have a thing over the mouthpiece to help speech be better, or to hide the wind or keep the wind out of the audio, because that can be very distracting. Again, the type of recorder that you have may or may not matter. Some people still prefer the old tape, reel-to-reel type recorder. Some people prefer the cassette, which is still, on a tape. Some people have gone digital and love digital. Some people believe that some of the audio recordings are electromagnetic that are made by the ghost to start with. So something that is electronic might be more sensitive to picking it up. Then again, the audio tape is electromagnetic. So maybe the tape recorders are actually better pieces of equipment. So the only way you'll know is to have both. Run them side by side and compare for yourself, evaluate, and publish your findings and let other people know, hey, we see evidence that the reel is the better recorder to use. EMF detectors are another instrument that we use a lot of. There are several different types. We use at least 4 different types of EMF detectors. One of them is called millimeter, and it has some of them have lights, some don't. We're not counting on the lights. I think that somebody that just puts a REM pod out that just has lights and it lights up and they get excited, well, they're kind of, what did they record? They recorded that something happened. They don't know how strong it was. They've got no reading, no measurement. They can't tell you how strong it was, whether it was a light reading or heavy reading or what. The lights went off. While the lights going off are entertaining and maybe making you aware or alerting you to the presence of something going on, you need instrumentation to be able to record and document events. Something else that you can document with is, of course, your camera, video cameras, digital cameras, your cell phone for that matter. Cameras help you capture some of the things that are happening. Sometimes as the entities are materializing, you're going to get misty things. Sometimes you're going to get blurry images, a little bit blurry anyway. We've got a number of them on our website. Almost every member on our team has captured cameras, a picture or video of some kind that has something in it that we try to share with other people. So the only thing I can tell you about taking pictures is take a lot of them. Record everything so that you can capture, increase your chances of capturing a ghost. You also want to be sure and take flashlights with you. There's nothing like being in the dark and not have a flashlight or be able to see your instruments for that matter. Some of our instruments don't have lights on them at all, and you have to be able to read them with a flashlight. So you want to carry a good flashlight. Also, sometimes we're going to encounter bugs, and so you want to have insect spray with you, and you should always have a good first aid kit handy. The chances of somebody getting hurt from time to time are pretty great. That's why a lot of places require us to have release from injury and release documents signed so that we're not holding anybody liable for any events that occur. And it's also why our group carries a blanket umbrella, liability umbrella, so that we could cover some of these things. And also, if you have a member on your team that has a medical issue of some kind, like diabetes, a heart condition, and they need nitroglycerin from time to time, or something like that, it's a good idea to know what these medical conditions are. In my case, it's poison ivy, poison oak. I'm highly allergic to it. I carry EpiPens. I can go from 0 to near death in about 60 seconds. And so I need to be injected, and you need to know where I keep my EpiPens. You might need to know where somebody else keeps their nitroglycerin or maybe even their insulin. Let's be a good team member, learn about each other, and take care of each other while we're on these investigations. Sometimes you run into situations and areas that are a little hazardous. And one that I always remember is one investigation where we were outside and there was a water hydrant where it was just a little higher than mid-calf. And we had 3 people stumble into that water hydrant and skin their legs up one after another. And after the first one, everybody knew where it was. But in the dark, you couldn't see it, and you forgot about it, and you got hurt. So, I'm sorry that people got hurt. Sometimes it happens. We've had people sprain their ankles in a hole in the ground, or trip over a tombstone out in the graveyard or something like that. There are going to be accidents. You need to be ready for them. That's why I like being with a team. If you get hurt, you got people to help you back to the car or to get help for you if you need them. So these are all things you need to be considering when you're looking at doing paranormal investigations. I hope you've learned something from this video. I've made it very short, very sweet. If you're old or new at paranormal investigations, All these tips are good for you to know and good for you to remember and good for you to review from time to time. With this said, I'm going to wish everybody a good night, unless there are any questions. I don't see any questions right now. I'm going to go ahead and say good night here, and we'll catch you all next Sunday for the next podcast. And I hope to have a good surprise for you next Sunday. Thank you for attending tonight.